Salutations everyone, my name is Owen Kirby and today we'll be talking about quadraphonic sound in TouchDesigner. What is quadraphonic sound? Quadraphonic means 4 speakers. So it's like having 2 sets of stereo. You've got a set of stereo at the front, a set of stereo at the back. Channel numbering is 0, 1, 2, 3, because they're 2 stereo pairs, or it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, however you see it. Why is it still cool even though we have 5.1 systems, 7.1 systems, and other more like involved spatial sound setups, including like Dolby Atmos, all this? It's still interesting because it's very much sort of DIY rock and roll. Let's get some spatial sound in there. In fact, it was popularized mostly by like prog rock bands. Pink Floyd is the big one. They have like quadraphonic records. They have this cool like joystick setup where you'd pan, I forget what it's called, like the spatializer or something, and you get this pan the sound around in a live concert. It's very easy to set up. So like if you've ever played with Audio and Touch, I hope you have, because I'm going pretty quickly over a lot of topics, but you've got 2 channels for your stereo sound over here, left, right. Very good. So this is in quadraphonic sound, it'd be like front left, front right, back left, back right. So you need 4 channels, and you send 4 channels, set up your audio device here. Depending on what you've got, you might need to activate these, back left, back right. Back to why it's really accessible. Most like budget sound cards, the ones you buy for like $200, they plug in USB, some of them even like are bus powered. They have 4 audio outputs, so you can already get this sort of setup going. Why is it cool in TouchDesigner? Well, I love TouchDesigner. Straight up, it's just fun to use. I think that's the biggest reason, honestly. And the other is that while it's easy to link up with the 3D rendering engine of TouchDesigner to have these sort of audio visual representations of what's going on. So like what I did here is I kind of, essentially this is going to be my Patreon patch. You can buy this one, you'll have the whole patch, but what you're really buying is the quadraphonic sound panning module. This audition thing is just an example. It's just, it helps you work in that space and visualize what's going on, but it's just one example of how you can really tie in your spatial sound with your TouchDesigner program. So let's dive into it. Let's dive into this one first, XY mode. Before we get the sound going, I'll just sort of establish that this is what you can use if you have a joystick, and the joystick sort of points to your X, Y, so you're looking down on the 2D plane. In TouchDesigner, this is X and Z, however, so there's a bit of confusion there, but like think of stuff like those MIDI controllers, the chaos pads, it's X, Y, because we're working in 2D. So it's a bit of a confusion, but just, you know, it's fairly obvious as well. So this is XY mode of the quad panner. We've got a mono sound source that outputs 4 channels. We've got 2 modulation inputs, one for X, one for Y. If we disconnect them, we can simply use these ones. So down, right, etc. Where'd my object go? Oh, I didn't like that. That's okay. All right, it did not. Let's see here. What's this thing? Okay, I've lost track of my little little object. Oh, here, that's why. Perhaps. Yeah. Okay, there it is. Okay, bottom left, so it's sort of the same coordinate system you'd use. Now I've chosen to look at it from a bird's eye view, but it makes sense to me. So the same sort of lookup system you'd use for textures. Bottom left is 0, top right is 1, so 0, 0, 1, 1, etc. Right, fairly obvious, but then you can get in between the spaces, and you'll see that it distributes the sound to the speakers. Okay, very cool. So that's it. Why is it cool in this context? It's cool because you can do stuff like audio rate modulation. or you can get sidebands if you want to get experimental. So this is cool. This is very much like an electronic sort of music setup we'll use for quad panning. Plug in your joystick, X, Y, and that's it, and do whatever you want with these. So that's the first mode. But you see the few other modes, X, Y, we'll go to those. The input is from 0 to 1, like I explained. So it doesn't match, again, the sort of 3D rendering coordinates, which would be -1. Actually, -1's at the front here. So on top is -1. The bottom is 1. We'll get that later. Position radius mode. This is the other mode. So in this mode, if you click this, 0 to 1 gives us the travel of the object around like a circle, and the Y channel gives us the sort of radius. So to go around the circle, around and around, you just send it sort of like a lookup ramp from 0 to 1. Again, it does audio rate. Okay, that's quad parent. Oh, I should explain the inputs and outputs. So yeah, mono sound source, quad output. I didn't even explain the quad audition thing. Quad audition, let's stop the sound for a bit here. Oops. So quad audition, this little module, it's just so that I could work with quadraphonic sound without actually having a setup, because you may have noticed I don't have a sound card or a microphone. So I'm just using these headphones, but I wanted to be able to audition the sort of gestures and stuff going on. So we'll get into that one. It's using the audio render chop, right? Each speaker is a sound source. The output format is binaural, so we can have the sort of phase stuff that makes you think sounds are behind you. And that's it for the position radius mode. It also expects 0 to 1 as its inputs. Next is this other mode I just added after recording the tutorial the first time, because it's easier to work with for what I call strict rotate mode. You'll see that no other speakers are lining up. So this is what, if you want to do point source sound, so these would come out like one speaker at a time, and that's it. But same thing, if I wanted to, it could also pan around. But you might see that it's panning around in stereo pairs. It's not going sort of filling in when it's in one of the corner, well, they're all corner speakers. So one of the speakers doesn't fill in two others, it only fills in one other. So I think this is a pretty good one as well for more sort of modular stuff. The strength is, I think, if you only have a single modulation source. If you only have a single modulation source, then you can make it, you can do this sort of cool stuff. The position Y is again a kind of radius, but it's not quite. It just sort of blends between all channels or full. So it's different type of gestures, just a different type of panning technique. There's this crossfade steepness, which is just sort of how fast it crossfades. So that's at 1. It'll be easier to hear this way. Okay, I can hear it blends more this way. That's a bit more strict. It's not super obvious, but there you have it. Third mode. This other mode is a completely different technique. So we're leaving a bit the domain of chops and audio tools. Or we're not leaving chops, but we're leaving these sort of audio tools that do audio rate modulation and are cool to work with. This, we're sort of tying in the streams with the visual rendering engine, with its own pros and cons. So this is a submodule I built that replicates the audio render chop. It takes multiple channels, sort of like your instancing channels. Here for position, it's multiple samples. For your audio, it's multiple channels. It looks at how many audio channels you have, makes a replicator. Inside the replicator is a geo. Inside the geo is our audio render. It takes a mono sound source, outputs quadraphonic sound, and the geo moves in space. Let's see here. So this is another spatialization tool. I work with it fairly often, like stereo binaural. It's not fully tested, or I haven't put all the features on it yet, but it's definitely works. So that's for quadraphonic. If I wanted, I could simply have this be binaural, and I would be able to bypass the quad addition, but we've got this cool visualizer, so I figure, all right, might as well. And that's it. So the pros is you can add many channels. Many channels, and this one, so we'll join here, I'll join there. So it's the same, so we'll change the amplitude, frequency, point. So that's the strength of this one. The pitfalls is that it's you can't do audio rate stuff with this. Right, so you can't, so I can't really get the same feel I would from a modular synthesizer. But it's very powerful. Oh, I should mention, the height channel here is largely ignored because we're just using quad sound. We don't have a height channel for that. But the attenuation, the built-in attenuation here, would still make use of that. So if I put an object really far away, then I wouldn't hear it as much. And you can hear now, sometimes when it gets close to the head, it's considerably louder. That's attenuation. The other modules don't perform attenuation. They just sort of pan the sound evenly, like this. All right. That's roughly it. That's quadraphonic panning. I was initially thinking of using the simple synth to show that while simple synth outputs 4 channels, maybe we can use some of the modulation channels to like pan those individual voices, but it's not necessary. These are the basic building blocks. It's easy to figure out from there how you can modulate the inputs, modulate the outputs. What's cool about the simple synth is that it's a fully polyphonic synth, right? You press the chord, you've got 4 voices, they're all coming out with their own modulation, so they could all be individually modulated either with like a single audio render chop like this, or several of these quad panner modules. That's it. If you have any more questions, hit me up, join my Patreon. It's gonna be fun. By the way, yeah, this one, this whole tutorial and patch came because I think my one patron had questions about quad sound. So if you become a patron and you've got a question about something else that's cool, maybe you can get a cool project out of it too. I hope you have fun. Thanks for watching. If you did watch, Saturday night, have a nice Saturday night. See ya.